Imagine being able to snap your fingers and instantly create a third grade reading passage that's all about Minecraft and is packed with R words. Do you have anyone on your caseload that could use that? What about a word list of sixth grade science vocab that all uses prefixes, or a custom social story specific to the exact behavior that your client is struggling with? Well, it may not be at the snap of a finger, but with some careful use of artificial intelligence, that reality is actually already here. I'm Carrie Clark, and on this episode of the Speech and Language Kids podcast, I'm going to show you how you can use artificial intelligence, or AI, to generate custom therapy materials in the blink of an eye. So I'm going to give you a whole lot of resources today and some links and some pictures and all kinds of great stuff. So if you are listening to this podcast as an audio format, you can head over to speechandlanguagekids.com/AI-materials, and that's going to give you access to the show notes, which has everything we're going to talk about today. But I also have some of you live here inside the hub, so welcome. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Sarai. So you guys are welcome to pop over into the chat and ask questions, but I'll be trying to pull up some of this and show you guys as I'm talking as well. We'll see how many things I can do at once. All right. So I want to talk about AI, or artificial intelligence. And before you start thinking that I am just some sort of an AI whiz and that this comes super naturally to me, I want to tell you about my friend Rex. And Rex has been talking about AI for years now. I guess like a couple years since the ChatGPT, when the ChatGPT released to the public. I think that was when he started using it, and he brings it up all the time. He loves AI, and he talks about all the cool things he does with it. And he is just one of those people that's an early adopter, and he jumped on that ChatGPT bandwagon as soon as it launched to the public and has been using it effectively in his personal life, his professional life. He thinks it's great. But I am not one of those people who is an early adopter. I like to consider myself a late adopter, meaning that I am very resistant to new things. And every time he talked about it, I would just say, nope, I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. I'm not a fan. And I would shut it down. And there have also been many times where he has suggested it for me professionally. And, think about how it could help with speech language pathology. And I say, no, speech language pathology has to be humans. It has to be human beings in the room with the person. You can't teach communication through a bot. And I still stand by that. But after listening to Rex talk about AI and brainstorming different ways that it could be used, I agreed to look into it. So I started listening to podcasts about AI in speech language pathology and what other people are using it for. And first, I found that not a lot of people are talking about it. So I don't think this is something that is super widespread in our field yet. But the things that they were talking about got me really excited. And so I started looking into it, and I started playing with it, and I am hooked now. So thanks to Rex telling me nonstop for 2 years that I needed to look into AI, I finally did it. And now I have, in the last week, gone from knowing nothing about artificial intelligence to building my own AI bots that are generating therapy materials inside my hub. So that's my journey, is going from absolutely not, I refuse to even think about this, to I'm all the way in. But let me back up, tell you about artificial intelligence and some of the ways that I see this potential to help us make our jobs as speech language professionals easier in a way that allows us to free up our time to actually focus on the kids that we are helping and provide that human piece that our clients need and that we need, okay? So let's start with what is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, also known as AI, this is the field of study that focuses on creating machines and computers that can perform tasks that would normally require human intelligence. AI is literally all around us, guys. It is built into our daily lives and systems that we already use. But within the last few years, it has become more accessible to just the average person through use of platforms like ChatGPT, which is provided by OpenAI. And so now what we can do is, we as individuals living in this world, we can ask questions, and the AI can scan the internet and give us a pretty darn good answer in just seconds. Or generative AI, which is what ChatGPT is, can create something totally new based on the information it gathers from the internet and the prompts that we give it. And that is where we get to some really cool magic. All right, so let's talk about how we can use AI for material generation. Now, there are so many implications of things that AI could do to assist to make our jobs easier. And there are a whole lot of things that we should definitely not be using it for. And I'm going to go into all of that in our webinar in January. I'm going to go in depth. But today, I just want to talk about material generation because I feel like this is a really easy way to start looking at these AI tools and figuring out how they can save us time and make our jobs easier without taking away the human element of our therapy sessions. So we can go into all of that later, but let's talk about material generation today. Our clients benefit from repetition and being able to work on a skill over and over and over again. And we also know that they benefit when we use therapy materials that are related to their interests or their hobbies or something that they're learning in class or something that's seasonal like snow. So these are things we know, right? These are things that are research-backed, repetition and tying it to their interests. We've been trying to do that in our field for years, and we do it. We do a really good job. But through AI, we can generate a custom word list, a custom reading passage, or even an image that includes the target skill that we want the student to work on and incorporates their interests. And we can do that in about 3 seconds. All we have to do is tell the AI what we want, and it will spit one back out. And if we don't like that one, or maybe we need more than one, we can hit submit again, and it'll spit out another one. And that, I think, is where we really can use this tool to help us because our therapy sessions will be more targeted, more interesting, more engaging, with less time on our end from the backside of actually getting the therapy materials put together. Okay? So I'm excited. This is very exciting to me. But let's talk about the dangers of using AI for therapy material generation. Like I said, in January, I'm going to talk about the dangers of a lot of other things too that we could, bad rabbit holes we could go down with AI. But specific to material generation, we need to be careful about how we're using these tools. The AI cannot think that the way humans do. It is artificial intelligence, not human intelligence. The AI doesn't know the difference between good advice or bad advice. It doesn't understand how words sound. It can't hear. So if you say, I need a word that has a medial L, it might give you an L that is technically in the middle of the word in the way it's spelled, but not the way it sounds, like little. That L is at the end, but there's an E after it. So the AI thinks it's in the middle because it doesn't understand how words sound. Yet, maybe it will figure this out eventually, but that's a limitation. Also, if the artificial intelligence can't find an answer, it will often make one up that sounds really good, but may not actually be based on research. So we need to be extremely careful when we are using a tool like this to generate materials, that we are not just trusting the AI or the tool to be a professional in speech language pathology, right? To have that master's degree, to understand what it's looking at, and to be able to think critically. Okay, so I have an example for you. I'm going to see if I can pull it up for those of you who are live with me in the hub, because it's really something that you have to see. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. I think I can pull that up. So if you are listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to go to speechandlanguagekids.com/AI-materials and look at this picture. So this is AI generated. I told the AI I needed a visual checklist for getting ready for school in the morning. And so these are the steps. I'm going to read them to you out loud. Wake up, go ot bed, bought the bathroom, get teeth, get bathroom, brush teeth, eat breakfast. By the way, he's standing at a toilet. Eat breakfast. I think that's a urinal. Pet shegs, pat breakfast, go to school, go to school. So at first glance, when you look at this checklist, you're like, oh, look, that looks great. Look at it. There's numbers. It's got this little boy and he's doing these things. But then when you start to actually look at the picture closely, you see a lot of things that are just not quite right. And part of that is just that the AI doesn't necessarily have the intelligence that we do to look at this and look at it critically and say, hey, those aren't really the steps to getting ready in the morning. And those pictures don't even represent the steps that I am seeing written down. However, if you ask the AI, hey, my kid's having trouble getting ready in the morning, can you give me a step-by-step checklist that's kid-friendly that would help him get ready in the morning? It can actually generate a really nice step-by-step checklist, but it's not quite advanced enough to pair the pictures with it, right? So we really need to be careful when we are doing this, when we are using any sort of artificial intelligence, but in particular for using it for material generation, that we are using these tools safely and in a manner that does not compromise the quality of our therapy. So I have 4 tips for you today on how to safely use AI for material generation. And then I'm going to talk you through how to actually do it. Okay? So first tip is don't ask the AI to create something that you don't already know. If you can't look at it and tell if it's correct, then it is not something that you should be having the AI make. Okay? So you shouldn't ask the AI to tell you how to do therapy or how to teach a specific skill. You should not be saying, hey, I need to teach a kid where questions. What should I do in therapy? And then just blindly doing that. Now, if you already kind of know how to do therapy for WH questions and you ask it that question and then you look at that list and you say, okay, well, here's a couple of good ideas. Here's one that I don't really like. That's a different story, right? That's you using it as a brainstorming tool as opposed to asking it to give you something that you don't have the ability to tell if it's correct or not. So ask it to create a material based on a therapy skill that you already know or something that you are already familiar with, right? I would not ask it to give me a checklist for a task I've never done before because I won't know if those steps are correct, okay? Step number 2 for how to safely use your AI is to review everything that comes out of it and not just at a quick glance. I mean, actually look at each picture because as you look at these AI generated pictures, you'll go, that lion has 6 legs instead of 4, or that toothbrush has too many heads on it. And it's things that you notice if you're really looking carefully, okay? So use your professional judgment, look at the materials that are being generated, look at the word list, look at the paragraphs, make sure that they make sense, that they are targeting the skills you want them to target, and that they are appropriate. You also, that's number 4. I'll wait on that one. Sometimes the silly stuff is fun, and that's okay. My kids love looking for discrepancies in AI-generated images. It's a great conversation tool, and it's a great way to work on your skill repeatedly because if you have asked it to make a picture that has lots of L words, and there's a lot of things wrong with those L words, then they're going to get to talk about them more. So that's okay. A little bit of silly is okay. You want to avoid anything that is inappropriate or looks scary or anything like that, okay? All right, tip 3 for safe AI use is not to enter any personal or identifying information about your clients into the AI. These tools are not HIPAA or FERPA compliant. I will say I think there are some now that are coming out that say that they are. I'm a little hesitant because I don't know that. I don't know for sure. So in my own mind, I would rather be safe than sorry. So I don't use even the HIPAA and FERPA compliant ones. I do not include any child's name, date of birth, any identifying information at all. I also do not let the AI listen to my clients. I'm not having the client talk to the AI and then having the AI tell me what the child did right or wrong, right? That's not what I'm using this for. I am just using it to help me make materials for that client. So I might say I've got a 3-year-old, boy who loves trains and we need some core vocab words. Give me a list. That's not the same as giving identifying information because there are a lot of 3-year-old boys that love trains in the world. So that doesn't narrow it down enough that anyone would know who I'm talking about. Okay, so don't enter personal information. And then number 4 is you need to watch for cultural biases. The AI does not know if it has created something that is offensive or racist or insensitive in some way. Make sure you are checking everything before you're using it, and make sure that you are familiar with the culture of which you are using in your images or your sentences, so that you will be able to tell if something is offensive before you put it in front of a client. Okay, so watch for that as well. AI is notoriously bad at that right now. Okay, so those are my disclaimers. Make sure you're using this well, but let's talk about how we actually do this, okay? So there's a couple different ways that you can go about this. There are a whole lot of tools right now that use AI in different ways. I am not familiar with all of them since, as I told you at the beginning of this podcast, I just started looking into this last week. So I am familiar with ChatGPT. That is the one that I familiarized myself with and I learned on, and then I used for the tools that I created. But I know there are a ton of other ones out there, and many of them feed off of the same intelligence base as ChatGPT. They use that OpenAI model. And so it might be similar results, or it might be an entirely different database that they're pulling from. So if you want to go down rabbit holes, you are welcome to look into all the different options and see what they do. They each have different features. But ChatGPT is the one I'm familiar with. And ChatGPT is a conversational tool. Okay, so you just speak to the AI in a conversational tone, just like you would talk to a friend. You provide it as many details as you want about what material you want to make, and then it will spit something out for you, okay, based on what you said. Then you can continue the conversation back and forth to tweak it until you have what you need. So you say, I like that, but this part of the paragraph, I don't like the way that's worded, or I don't like that the kid does this in the story. Could you change that to this? And you can continue to go back and forth until you have exactly what you need in that custom material. And I am, by the way, in just a minute going to give you examples, specific examples of what kinds of things you can ask for. So ChatGPT has a free version that gives you a certain number of hits per month, where you can use it a certain number of times. I don't know what that is, but you can look into that. That option is free. Or for a fee, which I want to say it's like $20 or $25 a month, you can use it more times, and you can also do more things with it. I think the image generation, maybe you have to pay for. I'm not sure on that either. Look into all of that information if you're interested, but just know there is a free version and a paid version, and they do the same thing but at different levels, basically, or with different features, okay? So that would be your first option for making your own therapy materials, is to go find a tool like ChatGPT, play around with it, and see what it can do. The key is you have to know how to word your prompts. And honestly, these tools will help you. If you say, hey, I don't know how to word this. Can you help me word this so that I get this thing? It will give you suggestions, which is kind of nice. But that's the challenge, is the more you play with it, the more you get to know it. And you figure out, okay, if I word it this way, this happens. I need to make sure I specify that if I say the K sound, I also mean a hard C. So there's all these different nuances that you kind of figure out as you play with it. And then it's limited by your creativity. Whatever you can think up, the AI will try to make for you. And it won't be perfect, but you can get some stuff started, okay? So that's one option. The other option is using a pre-made AI tool that is specific to what you need. So that is what I have been playing with and creating for the last week. And I now have 7 of them because I can't stop. But basically what I did with my tools is I used a platform that allowed me to use the ChatGPT, the OpenAI brain, so to speak, but to create a form where all you have to do is input certain variables, and it's already pre-programmed to deliver a specific piece of material, a specific therapy material. So for example, I have a word list generator. I went through and added all the prompts and worded it just right to make sure that when you use this tool, you get a word list of words that are appropriate for speech therapy. And all you have to do is select the grade level that you want those words to be, the level you want them at. The type of words, so I want R words, I want multiple meaning words, I want adjectives, and then the interests of the child. So you can say Minecraft or trains or superheroes. And then it will pop up a list of words that are exactly what you asked for. Okay, most of the time. Now, I will say the biggest challenge I think I've had so far with AI is that fact that it doesn't understand how words sound. So if you ask for minimal pairs, it gets close. If you ask for a list of 25 minimal pairs, maybe like 10 of them are actually the minimal pairs you want, and then the rest are something that it tried and it didn't quite get right. So that is a challenge with the word list. But that is a tool that I have built. And so those tools are located inside my membership hub over at hub.speechandlanguagekids.com. They're included with our full paid plans, not the freebie plan. But for those of you who are in there with me live right now, if you have that full membership, those are available to you now. I'm sure that there are other AI tools that people are creating, and if not yet, then there will be more soon because this is a hot thing right now and everybody's playing with it. But I don't know what other ones are available. So those are the ones that I have created. But I'm going to tell you the list of the ones I've created because number one, if you want to just use my pre-built ones, hop into the hub. Number two, this should help you think about some of the prompts that you could give AI if you want to do this, let's say on ChatGPT or another open-ended tool, where you could start to think through different ways that you could use this. Okay, so we talked about the word list generator. That's my first one. The second one I made is a sentence or prompt generator. So this one, you can say things like, I need 2-step directions or 3-step directions, or I need where questions or who questions, or I need sentences that include the S sound or anything like that, right? Sentences that include multiple meaning words. So any skill that you're working on, if you're working on it at the sentence level, or if it's the type of skill that you need a prompt for, that one will generate lists of prompts. So that's an idea as well. The third one is reading passages. So I love this because I don't know about you guys, but I do a lot of reading and retelling in my therapy sessions when the students are doing pretty well with their skill in isolation, maybe at the single word or the sentence level, but we need to work on it in a harder setting. So I will have them either read a passage that contains their target skill, or I will read them a passage and have them retell it back to me. So for the passage generator that I created, you enter, again, the reading level, and then you enter their therapy goals and their interests. So you can say a reading passage about Minecraft that has a lot of R words. Or you could say a 4th grade narrative, and then mine has the option to generate a list of comprehension questions and answers. So you could work on reading comprehension. Or you could say, I want a informational text, and I want you to pull out the main idea and details at the bottom, so I can use that for an activity in therapy. That's a great one too. What was another one? Or an opinion piece, it'll make those as well. So if you're working on any of those skills, it will generate a passage for you that you can grab and use in therapy. We've got ours on our app, so you could just have your app open and just generate one right in the moment. Say, hey, what do you want to talk about today? Oh, Minecraft? Cool. You type in Minecraft, you hit generate, and then make sure you read it over before you say it out loud, just in case there's something weird in it. But you review it, and then you can use it right there in therapy. Okay? So we've got word lists, sentences or prompt lists, reading passages. The next one is images, and we talked a little bit about this. This one is actually my favorite, even though it's the one that works the worst. It's probably the least accurate of all the AI tools that we can use right now. But it's because those pictures end up so silly sometimes that it gets the kids really engaged and interested, and they have so much fun playing what's wrong with this picture. And so you can ask for a picture that, stack it full of items that contain your target sound or focus on the target skill. You could say irregular past tense verbs, whatever it is, and then just look at it really closely before you let the kids see it to make sure there's nothing too weird or culturally insensitive or racist or unsettling. There's some things where you're like, there's too many feet on that. I can't Can't do it. But then once you get a picture that you can use, then you can ask your clients to find what's wrong with that picture, and that gives them an opportunity to use their skills over and over again as well. Okay, next is a conversational prompt generator. So when I'm working at the conversational level, I like to start with quick response, okay? Name as many trains as you can. Name as many colors as you can. Something that doesn't take a lot of robust language so that they can really focus in on their skill. And then from there, I move them up to, okay, now we're going to do a short answer to a question. Now we're going to do an open-ended answer to a question. Now I'm going to ask you to tell me about this thing. Now we're going to have a full conversation on that, right? So I like to step them through the levels of conversation. And I created a prompt generator then that I can just pick which level they're at and a topic they want to talk about that day. And it gives us a series of prompts that we can use to have those conversations so that we're not asking the same questions over and over again, because that's what I tend to do. All right, the last two are social skills. So the first one is a social scenario generator, and this one's been really fun. So this one, you say, I need the student to work on initiating interactions with peers. I want the scenario to happen in a school setting, and I want that to be at a second grade level. And the AI will generate a scenario and then ask, how would you navigate the situation? So it might say, oh, you're sitting in class and everyone's working on their worksheet and you realize you don't have a pencil. This is not initiating interaction. Sorry, that one was a problem-solving example that got used. So let's say it was problem-solving. So you don't have a pencil. What could you do to make sure you can complete your worksheet? And then it will give you some suggestions of different things that they could say or do to navigate that social interaction. You could raise your hand, you could talk to the teacher, you could ask the kid sitting next to you. And then it gives you this conversation piece where you can say, okay, here's the scenario. How would you respond? And then let's look at what the AI thought. Do you think these are good suggestions? Would you do any of these? So now, in addition to whatever they thought up, they're also getting other suggestions as well. So that one's fun. And then the last one I built, but again, you're limited only by your imagination. I'm sure you guys will be able to think of even more that you could create. But the last one I did was a social story text generator. So you remember that the pictures are not totally accurate. So asking for an entire social story did not lead to very successful results for me. But if I just asked for the text of a social story, it actually did really, really well. And then I can add my own pictures by just copying and pasting it into a Word document and either taking pictures of the client doing those things or grabbing some stock photography online, right? So for this one, you enter the grade level and the skill or situation or behavior that you want them to work on. And you get as specific as you want, because the more specific you make it, the better the social story will be. Or just, throw it out there and see what comes up, and then you can tweak it. And it just gives you the text. So I like to play with my friends. If a friend has something that I want to play with, I can say, and it just gives you this beautiful little social story. Obviously, you need to edit it. Obviously, you need to customize it to make it exactly what your client needs. But it takes away that part where you're sitting at your desk staring at the computer going, okay, how do I start this? What should I have them say? So even if it generates a social story and some of the things are, I don't really like that suggestion, it's enough of a framework to get you going that you can then go, okay, but I actually would like them to say this, right? And it just takes so much of the time off of us to create these resources. So I'm absolutely loving that. Okay, so anyway, all the links to those generators that I've already created are over at the show notes or inside the hub. So you can either go to hub.speechandlanguagekids.com and access them there, or if you want to look at the notes and look at the descriptions of all of these, you can go to speechandlanguagekids.com/AI-materials, and you'll find all of our notes there of how to, all the stuff we talked about today in the podcast. So lots of good stuff there. Like I said, we are going to continue to talk about AI and different ways that we can use it for other things as well. And we'll be having a full webinar on that in January once we come back from our holiday break. But yeah, if you have questions about it, pop into the hub, hop over to our discussion board. You can ask questions in there. We can talk about the pros and cons and how we should or shouldn't be using these tools and come up with all kinds of really great things. Also, if you guys use our AI tools, that the generators inside the hub, make sure you give me feedback because we can continue to program those and make them more specific to what we're doing. So if anything looks weird or wonky, let me know and we'll continue to customize those as well. All right. Thanks, Sarah. I got your thumbs up. All right. Thank you all so much for participating today. I'm listening on the podcast. I'm going to record a couple of these right now over the next couple of days so that we can have those all ready to go through the holidays. And then we'll hit the ground running again in January with some new and fun stuff inside the hub as well. So excited to have you all along for the ride. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you on the next one.